And we're live. Everyone joining us from around the world, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm very excited for this conversation. Two dear friends of mine. To my top left, we have Rami Aman, a friend from Gaza. To my top right, we have Rabbi Yehuda Cohen, who is an Israeli living in the West Bank, also known as Judea and Samaria.
In northern Judea.
Northern Judea. Okay, there we go. So, Rami, I want to start with you because last time we had you on the channel was 2 or 3 years ago, and shortly after you were actually arrested by Hamas and spent 6 months in prison, if I'm not mistaken. I'd like to just start and give you the opportunity to share what happened, what your experience was, and how you're doing now.
Thank you so much, Adar, for this opportunity. Hi, Yehuda. Hope you are doing well. First of all, I think it's also a good thing that we are met each other in the last years. Yes, I made me live with you, I think 2 or 3 years ago, but I think it was on the same topic that I'm calling for peace to find partners there in Israel and let people just talk and to speak better than fight. All the time, I'm not calling for one state and two states and all of these political propaganda solutions. I'm talking about let people speak with each other. Uh, and because I'm talking all the time in Gaza Strip and I'm working like to build a movement and I succeed in that. And of course, the security there made many hard of stresses. First of all, about my connections with the Israelis, and if I'm working with them as a collaborator or I'm working with them as someone just listening to them and just repeat their media. But for me, no. I have a vision and I started my own career. And I met you personally, Adar and Yehuda, in 2017 when I returned from America to Gaza. And I was talking with you how we can build each other together. How can we build something together? In Gaza, I raised my voice about many Israelis caring about find a solution, caring about Gaza, caring about the good future of Gaza. I did that. I introduced many of Israelis from left and right to the people in Gaza, but nobody cares. Maybe most of the Israelis, especially boys, cares about girls in Gaza. And most times they push them to leave Gaza. So who will stay in Gaza? The people who are dropping missile over the Israelis who are in the next border, because I'm in touch with them every time to arrange a Zoom meeting, and I know how much they are suffering from the noise that happen in the border. Now we are under a war. My family, my sisters, my friends, my neighbors. I missed people participated in a Zoom meetings with Israelis. They are civilians. They are not Hamas. But we have nothing to do than keep fighting for that message because it's our voice, it's our message, it's our responsibility from the Palestinians themselves to share for the world that we are people. The Israeli media, everything with the Israeli media, but in the end, I'm looking at my people who are now under the fire. I don't care about Hamas. Already, I paid a lot for my message to share hands with Israelis and just to create another generation. Let's live in one state under Israeli flag, but without war. Let's live in two states, but let the people talk. But until now, we are still asked who killed the people, Israeli or Palestinian. For me, you are talking with someone, I'm against any kind of killing. There is no need to prove that. I was surprised from my friends. I was very happy from you to invite Israeli and Palestinians as American or Israelis to keep them talk. But other Israelis are starting to send me messages asking me to condemn any killing of Israeli. Wow, me send that message for Hamas themselves. Send that message for their leaders that you are just make some propaganda against Hamas and you can catch their leaders in Qatar and in Turkey. Sorry for this, for that introduction, but all of us under stress. All of us. I think there is no Israeli with any kind of killing inside Gaza. I know what is how the Israeli think. I'm receiving every time messages from there. And my other friends also in Gaza receive the same messages. Israeli and Palestinians now they are breaking the siege over Gaza. Netanyahu make a siege to not transfer money, to not get any food. Why? He is not fighting Hamas. Hamas, he will ask. Hamas already has money, has power. Netanyahu himself transferred billions of dollars for Hamas, accepted hundreds thousands of permits for the workers who applied by Hamas minister. And when I applied for a permit, I got an Israeli security ban. I have a screenshot, or you can put an ID number and ask Myron and ask our friends en route. We are talking and helping each other. But I can't do something alone. And many Palestinians in Gaza, they want to do something. They want to raise their voice. But we have no support. We have no opportunities. We organized a protest last July, and for the first time, hundreds, thousands of people went to the streets and say loudly, Arhal Hamas, go out Hamas, without any kind of help. Now you are waiting from the people to make a revolution against Hamas and the help of Israeli soldier. You are speaking from the big organizers of any protest happen against Hamas. I will not make any revolution against Hamas in front of Israeli tank. How come? Nobody from you will respect me if I will do that, if I will come inside any government with the help of it. It's like more complicated. It's like nothing to do than killing.
So, Rami, thank you. And just because some viewers are wondering, so you were imprisoned because Hamas accused you of being a collaborator. It wasn't just that you were just making friends with Israelis, doing Zoom calls. You were convicted of being a collaborator. You spent 6 months in prison, and then you were able to leave to Egypt, that's where you currently are. So you're safe to do these streams, correct?
No, why? I made the release on me on 26th of October 2021. My first 10 calls in that time was my first call was with an Israeli. Most of my calls after my release were with Israelis. After that, I continued my initiative to speak with Israelis, and I worked with other voice organization for a beautiful initiative called One Bag One Hope. And then I traveled to Egypt for more relaxation and more planning. In Sinai, I met some partners. In Nueva, I met some partners. We failed in some projects, but we succeed to build other projects. But I'm here in Cairo, not that I'm moving from Gaza forever. Before that happened, I was thinking to return to Gaza to continue my work. I have some many projects between Israelis and Palestinians and dream about let them just keep more closer from each other. So
Mhm.
now I'm waiting while Rafah is open. You will find me there. And continue our mission because Hamas want to replace Abu Mazen. That's very clear. And Netanyahu want Hamas. It's also very clear. We need to create third parties here and there.
Thanks for giving that background and update. Yehuda, what's on your mind?
Obviously, it's a very difficult situation here. It's been, obviously the violence that took place on Simchat Torah was shocking to most of Israeli society. I think that since then, since Simchat Torah, basically the last week and a half or so, there's been a real desire. Like, if we're being honest, the people of Israel across the political spectrum have a desire for revenge, for vengeance. Like, we've been hurt in ways that were so shocking and so traumatic to even watch. That I think that I'm hopeful that now that I think according to some opinions, say we've had revenge, but I'm hopeful that now we can stop just thinking about revenge and start thinking about what do we actually want to see here. Because what I'm really tired of, at least on the Israeli side, is feeling like an object and not a subject, right? Feeling like an object with a problem and not like a subject with desires, with an agenda. People like to complain about this one's agenda or that one's agenda, right? Like, what is the Iranian agenda? What is the American agenda? What is the Marxist agenda? What are all the different agendas at play here that we have to protect ourselves from? But what I really want to know, what is the Israeli agenda? What do we want? What do we want to see here? And I think that, look, in many ways, if I'm being honest, the Jewish people came back to this land, especially those of us who had been in Europe for centuries. We came back to this land traumatized by generations and generations of very traumatic persecution. And we haven't healed from that. And in many ways, Palestinians are the victims of it. And our relationship with Palestinians is one that I think is very much impacted by the experiences we had in exile with nations who dominated us and mistreated us and ultimately, gassed and burned us. And I think that, one of the ways we speak a lot of the Vision Movement, where I'm one of the leaders and educators. We speak a lot about systemic anti-Semitism, how anti-Semitism functions as a system of oppression, and how different it is from other systems of oppression like racism or Islamophobia. One of the ways I think anti-Semitism functions is that Jews tend to constantly experience ourselves as more vulnerable than we might be, while everybody else sees us as more powerful than we might be. So we always think of ourselves as punching up, while everyone else looks at us as if we're punching down. This is true for Hamas. It's true for Whoopi Goldberg. It's true for Kanye West. This is just, I think, one of the ways anti-Semitism operates, and I'm really tired of being a victim of that. I think we need to recognize our own power and learn how to be powerful in a way that's also just. The Jews, we knew how to be weak and just, powerless and just, vulnerable and just, and maybe we know how to be powerful and unjust. And we know how to justify it to ourselves based on all of the trauma that we experienced and the fact that there are people who want to kill us. That's, shouldn't be called into question, especially right now. But what I'm really interested in is how we, Israelis, Palestinians, all the peoples of this land, are going to grow and advance as a result of this crisis and as a result of this horrific, really horrific for so many people. But how are we going to use this pain and turn it into power? How are we going to use this pain and this crisis and grow from it and move forward from it? And it's, these are easy words to say. But in reality, we're so far away from where we need to be right now. What's on my mind is how can we, people of Israel, first and foremost, decide what we want, what we think is correct, what we think is just here, what we think should be the situation in Gaza, and then think about how we can move reality towards that in a realistic way. So I for sure, when it comes to this specific conflict and all of the little conflicts we've had with Hamas since 2005, from my perspective, all of these are the result of George W. Bush and Condoleezza Rice forcing Israel out of Gaza, forcing us to relinquish the territory, forcing us to destroy the 24 Jewish communities that were there, and forcibly expelling nearly 10,000 Jews from their homes. And we are not going to, and in my opinion, the Israeli occupation of Gaza actually began in 2005, because before that, we could say Gaza was disputed territory. Israel considered it to be part of our country. Other people said, no, it's not. That's objectively a dispute. But in 2005, in addition to throwing out all the Jews who lived there, and in addition to pulling out the military and the infrastructure, Prime Minister Ariel Sharon officially relinquished Israel's claim to the territory. Yet, since then, we have insisted on controlling everything about it. And if it's not yours, but you control it, that's definitely occupation. So I'm interested in ending that occupation. I don't want to control a territory that's not mine. that I regard Gaza as part of my country. And I think the only way we can put a stop to these wars is for Israel to acknowledge our mistake, not let the Americans tell us what to do anymore, go back to Gaza, retake the territory, take out Hamas permanently, rebuild the Jewish communities that were destroyed, and offer the Palestinians living in Gaza a better life together with us. That's what I want. And I guess my question for Ramy is, because that's what I want. Being what I want to see is Gaza part of a one-state solution between the river and the sea. How can we do that in a way, in Ramy, in your opinion, is there a way for me to get what I want that's good for Palestinians, and that will maybe not right away, but sooner rather than later, show the Palestinians living in Gaza that that life can be better together with us? So what would we do?
For sure, for anyone, if you want to show something, he want to take a step, the first step. So show me your first step, and I will transfer it to my people. Or of course, we will hear about that, but no signs coming from the other sides for anything, for another occupation, or for another one state or two states, and there is no sustainable life for any human. It's not easy to talk in public about like that you are looking for a solution. Not all Israelis are brave to speak in public about their own opinions. We have also Israelis like Palestinians have double faces. Face for some propaganda and some fake projects and money on the land, and other real opinion talk with people in reality. So we need a sign. I need to get a sign. But tell me, guide me for any Israeli working to find or to make a sustainable life for a Palestinian. But how come every year I am under attack? Every month there is nothing. There is no sustainable life. Also, the Israeli government control the life of the Palestinians since years. When Mr. Ariel Sharon withdrew from Gaza, he did that without any kind of coordination with with Mahmoud Abbas, and his vision know that the power in Gaza City it will go to the Palestinian factions. America and Israel made a lot of pressure over Abu Mazen to invite Hamas and to share it with the government. And from 2007 until now, who feed the government? Islamic Brotherhood, when they won in Libya and Egypt and other countries, America and Israel supported them. But for when people choose Hamas, until now, an Israeli sitting in front of the beach in Tel Aviv and just saying, oh, let them remove Hamas. They choose Hamas. Oh, really? The generation who choose Hamas did already. There is not nobody in Gaza already now. Now, until now, the number of the martyrs more than of 3,500 and hundreds under the building. Israel responsible, Hamas responsible. They are die there. And by this way, if I imagine like that, oh, okay, so they are preparing another fighters to make it again, and after 10 years or 20 years. So I believe that, as you said, Yehuda, we need to find some practical steps away from what happened, but not to create more Netanyahus, not to create more Abu Mazen and more Hamas and more Ben Ghafir. If I want just to make some votes, yalla, let's make some propaganda in religion way, or make any kind of calling for death or promote machines. No, you killed each other already. We need to find an initiative to stop this war and to stop this firing under both people, to find how we can make any kind of something apply for the audience here and there, make them trust in us that we can give them a solution. Let's talk about release on civilians, not just Israelis. Hamas and IDF will not take care about these civilians and these hostages in the land. Nobody will be afraid than their families. Any Israeli, any Hamas fighter can kill them and say that no, it's not me. And you will write a comment against me, and I will make the same with you. But who will pay the price? So if we are brave enough to speak about initiative, make a pressure over our leaders, I'm talking behalf of many Palestinians. And I can make that happen and make this thing a public opinion in my community. But if you can't make the same in your community. So don't ask me what to do. I understand my community well. And you understand your community well. And then we can talk and create generations. But by this way, how come I will all of people now mini Hamasis?
Yehuda, so Rami brings up an interesting point that plan is something that Israelis would need to agree with as well, and I'd be interested to see who would be more in agreement of a one-state solution, like you described. If it's possible there would be more resistance on the Israeli side than the Palestinian side. People in the comments are asking, under your solution, would Gazans get full citizenship and equal rights?
You want me to answer?
Yep.
Okay, it's obviously a difficult thing to speak about this week because of all the pain and the anger that exists in Israeli society over what we saw on Simchat Torah. But yes, obviously, the solution that I speak about is one in which Palestinians are given full Israeli citizenship and equality. Um, that would be, again, right now, and this is something I very much admire about Rami's work. Um, Right now, no solution is possible. Not a one-state solution, not a two-state solution, not Professor Kedar's eight-state solution.
I didn't ask about solutions.
Right,
You
right.
ask about solutions. I'm asking now about helping my people. Now I'm busy to transfer money and to break Netanyahu's decisions. I did it already. I
So,
transferred the humanitarian aid from America to Gaza, and I can do it. And I transferred money from Israel to Gaza through the world, not directly. The blockade over me, not over Netanyahu and Hamas. Hamas until now, they can make money and they can transfer the money. No blockade over Hamas, no war over Hamas. The war over all the people inside of Gaza Strip. So if you are to ask about political question, we can also guide the political plan from now because I think we need the leaders, Israeli and Palestinians, under this situation to speak about their visions. I don't want you in a calm situation to speak about peace. I need you now, and I need others now because
so
next you will not find more Gazans, nothing to do in Gaza than killing. Nothing.
So, if,
well, what I
if
was saying,
yeah,
sorry, if I can,
just so it sounds like Rami is very much interested in understanding what we could do right now to end the violence, and Yehuda, you're interested in understanding what happens next, and I think these are both very important conversations. So let's really focus. Let's focus on both. Yehuda, you could finish your point, and then let's really go to see, what can happen now, and then we'll focus more on solutions.
my point was really that unlike a lot of people who just talk about solutions, and it's important, I think, because people want to know where this is going when I make certain statements. I'm sure there are many people in your audience who want to know where my vision would lead before they decide if they agree or disagree with what I'm saying. But I like that Rami's focus is much more on the relationship dynamics between peoples and less on political solutions. I think that's important. A friend of mine in Bethlehem, Sami Awad, likes to say that everybody focuses on the frame around the picture, but we need to deal with the picture. And if the picture is the relationship, and the frame is a solution. And if we can fix the picture, we can find a lot more solutions. I think that's true. But even though I think the focus really does need to be on fixing the relationship, how we experience each other, the fact that right now we're living in two completely different movies, two completely different understandings of the conflict and history and reality, and we're each playing the antagonist in each other's movie. We're each the bad guy in each other's movies, and we need to change that. Um, I, at the very least, want to have a vision for what a correct, just, ideal solution would be, so I know what I think we should be working towards. So a solution that I would be working towards is a single state between the river and the sea, including Gaza, that is much more deeply Jewish than the state of Israel currently is, yet at the same time more softly Jewish. Right now, the state of Israel has a Jewish identity that is very hard and very shallow. It's too shallow for the Haredim and for a lot of the national religious public, and it's too hard for Palestinians. But if we could make it soft and deep instead of hard and shallow, those with a Jewish education who want a Jewish state would recognize the Jewishness everywhere, and those who are not Jews, or even Jews with very little Jewish education, would barely notice it, wouldn't even see it. And I think that if we can create a democratic, inclusive, one-state reality with a deep Jewish identity, right? I'm not talking about the skin of the state, but the bones and the organs of the state are deeply Jewish, and somebody who spent time learning, learning Jewish texts will recognize, oh, that institution functions like this thing I saw in the Mishnah, or that institution functions like this thing I saw in the Gemara and the Talmud. But those who've never opened the Talmud, or those who've never looked at the Mishnah, wouldn't notice that there's anything Jewish per se, and would feel like an equal citizen who has the same rights and the same access as everybody else. And I think that's where we would need to go. And obviously, there are a lot of, when you start to talk about solutions broadly, people want to know details. If you guys are interested in using our time together to discuss those details, I'm happy to do so. But I'm going to let you drive it, Adar, and whatever you need from me, you just let me know.
Cool. Yeah. So, Ramy, we'll get back to talking about what we could do to end the violence, but I am curious to know, do you think that Gazans would agree to become citizens of Israel if that would include freedom of movement, equal rights, access to the entire land? Is that something you think Gazans could get behind, or is the idea of being citizens of this state that they've viewed as their enemy for the past 70 plus years, is that something they could get behind, or would they outright reject it?
I coming from a community in Gaza, so I'm listening about many different characters and many different opinions. Some people inside Gaza Strip said about that solution that I can ready to go and live in Israel under the Israeli flag, under as Israeli citizen. Some others said that we can live in one state, but that will take some time. Some people they are rejected any kind of solutions like that, and they are looking for two states. And some other people also calling for Jews go out to Europe. But the most of people they are really support any kind of negotiation happening with Israel. But as I told you, the media and the situation just represent Israeli over in the sky drop a missile. There is no Israeli promote peace. There is no Israeli take care about Gaza. So they don't listen this kind of message. But if you apply a sustainable life, if you apply your sustainable life and make some few freedom of movement for the people, I think you will find many people shaking hand with you and make your vision easy. But nothing to do in Gaza. Everything controlled by Hamas, controlled by Israeli government, controlled by Abu Mazen. Support the Palestinians, to make elections, for example. Let them create another leadership. Especially all of us know that the recognition of Hamas in the first came by an Israeli. And all of us know that the Israeli created two kind of leadership between Palestinians, but it's like feeding the conflict. So let us think by ourselves how we can exchange our success stories and build it together. It's a conflict between you and me. I need America to stand with both of us, not with
I want
you
America to stand with neither
or
of
with
us.
me.
America has to get out of this conflict.
There is no need for more smart weapons because already your weapons is more smart. You don't have stupid smart, and you are waiting a battleship from America and all of that shit. It's just killing people in the end. Not will not add anything.
Right? No,
Will not add any.
the American weapons companies are really making the killing off of all
It
this.
just create more votes for Biden because of that. Trump said Biden now will make more votes. Netanyahu will also make more votes, but over the dead bodies of the Palestinians, and that's something very bad. And just repeat of last things happen in the last years, and no need. We need to change our behaviors and to tell our governments that we are, or we have nothing, or we have something else than your behaviors together. Netanyahu create more enemies. I'm trying to create peace partners. but your army attacked them, and they they have nothing to do. But it's just enemies in Gaza. I can't do that without you. So please make a pressure over your government. Let us find our freedom. And then that will be easy to talk and accept any kind of relation. We are living together since years. Musa, Isa, Muhammad. So
So
yalla, you are the leader. You are the leader, Yehuda. Yalla, go.
so it sounds like there's definitely there's no consensus amongst Palestinian society as to what the solution is, and it actually seems like out of
They
desperation.
see nothing. They see nothing than killing. Just killing, just killing, just killing. Nothing. That's Israeli soldier in the media. There is nothing else.
Right. So it seems like Palestinians really out of desperation would really likely support any change that seems to be an improvement to their current situation. And I was thinking about this the other day. After the attacks on October 7th, you had Palestinians, including ones in Gaza, cheering and celebrating. And I was thinking to myself, it's like, why are they celebrating when they know what Israel's response is going to be? Like,
I will tell
why?
you. I will tell you that. I will tell you that in a few minutes. Hamas started his operation by feeding the audience with a very huge films about victories. But in their third and fourth and fifth day, they started to speak about children who kids. And some Israeli speaks that human shields, human shields. Oh
Right.
wow, wow! You discovered that by yourself. So that's something yani, not clear in our situation. All of us know that. But you support more killing, and you know that they are human shields, and you don't care.
Yeah, so actually, what you're saying is confirming what we had another friend from Gaza
The
on, and
Israeli media
Rami,
started by that
real quick,
people, babies, and no, it's nothing.
Ra-
Okay, murders. Many things happened there.
Rami,
They made
Rami. I'd like to
yes.
finish this point, and just because
Ah, okay.
there's a lot going on, so I want us to be able to have a back and forth. Thank you. Um, So what you're saying actually confirms what I've heard from quite a few Palestinians now, that in Gaza they were reporting that only soldiers were killed, and that many Gazans, that's what they thought, that it was a military against military victory. I attributed some of the celebration just to the fact that any progress, any change, Palestinians will take, and it sounds like that's what you're describing as well, in terms of if there's a better life offered to them, Palestinians would go for it. Now, Yehuda, I actually think your proposed solution, it would be harder to convince Israelis than Palestinians, and I'd be one of those that you need to convince. I have no issue with equal rights. The idealist to me would like to see one nation from the river to the sea, everybody equal. But the realist in me, when I try to see how that would play out, it seems like two distinct populations who speak different languages with different cultures and who have just such immense fear, trauma, and hate from one another, suddenly fighting over control of one political system and one military seems very, very likely to end in bloodshed unlike ever we've seen on this land. It seems like to achieve a one-state solution can happen after maybe a generation of reconciliation, and maybe initially we need some kind of other temporary solution if really that's our end goal. Or and this is why I really lean towards a federation solution, which is something in between, right? It keeps the land whole, um, and Israel, or the land of Israel and Palestine, whatever it would be called, would be federated into many smaller cantons or states, and there might be a dual government of Israelis and Palestinians. There'd be an Israeli government and a Palestinian government with a sophisticated system of checks and balances, and this way you don't have these two distinct populations who have been in conflict for 100 years now competing over control. So is federation part of your vision? Because I think if we're going to get Israelis on board with this, it's going to need to, it can't just be like one government, one military, we're all just going to vote, and that just seems like a disaster waiting to happen.
No, federation has not been part of my vision, although visions can be fluid. But as of now, it's not. But one thing that is part of my vision is shifting from a representative democracy to a participatory democracy, where anybody who wants to be involved in the democratic process here would be involved on a weekly basis on election day every 4 years, which would, on the one hand, empower people a lot more. Because from my perspective, democracy means empowering people to influence the structures we live under. That is my definition of democracy, whether or not people vote. And I think that a system, a participatory democratic system, a direct democratic system, not only empowers people a lot more than representative democracy, but also requires a lot more from us. It requires us to really be responsible, requires us to really understand the issues, those of us who want to opt in. And I think that if we can create a system here that requires those who are involved in the political process, whether Jewish or Palestinian, to be involved on a weekly basis and discuss everything, in their neighborhoods, from road safety, local schools, to diplomacy and defense. I think that you would have a much more informed public, at least the politically involved public would be a lot more informed, harder to manipulate by the media, harder to manipulate or exploit by politicians, and there will be an equal system that's democratic yet makes demography irrelevant. So I think that that it wouldn't just be the state of Israel that we have now, plus a few million Palestinians joining the party. It would have to require a complete change in the structures of government to a certain extent, and one that's more fitting for us. Because the truth is, we fought the British throughout the 1940s. There was the Zionist movement did not fight the British, but there were definitely, underground Jewish guerrilla groups that fought the British, specifically the Lehi, but also later the Etzel as well. And what happened was these Jewish guerrillas fought the British, forced the British to leave. The British Empire even admitted that they left Palestine because of Jewish terrorism. And then what happened was the Zionist movement declared a Jewish state, which was basically the British mandate government, which was a very colonial system, but they put Jewish decorations on it. So what we've had for the last 75 years here is basically a British colonial system with Jewish decorations called the Jewish state. And I think a lot of what we've seen before this war broke out, we saw 10 months of intense infighting within Israeli society, not over judicial reform, that was a pretext, over the identity of the country. What is this country going to be? Because it was a conversation that had been avoided for 75 years. It was an issue that every political leader had really kicked down the road and refused to deal with directly. And now we have no choice but to deal with it. It's crazy to me, by the way, that only a couple of weeks ago there were loud aggressive attempts to keep Yom Kippur out of the Tel Aviv public space. Right, that was what was going on a couple of weeks ago. How do we stop Yom Kippur from encroaching on the Tel Aviv public space? And here we are, a couple of weeks later, living in a completely different universe. Right, with Israeli societies in a completely different place than we were a couple weeks ago. But I don't want to only be able to get to this level of unity or this level of shared identity and purpose through crises and through bloodshed. I want to be able to have our internal. I'm not even speaking to Ramy or Palestinians in this moment. I'm saying Israeli society needs to be able to grow up and deal with our internal contradictions in a mature, productive way that allows us to clarify what we want to move forward. I often argue that Israel, we achieved our material liberation. We made the British leave, we declared a state. But we never experienced a post-colonial process. We never decolonized our identity, addressed our trauma. Palestinians are very much the victims of this, so are we. And I don't think, it's embarrassing for me. I'm honestly ashamed to tell Ramy, Israeli society is not ready. Like I have in my mind what the solution should be, but like you said, Adar, most Israelis would be frightened to even go down this road because I think we're still traumatized. I don't think we've really dealt with what happened to us in exile. I don't think we've really come to terms with what it means to have power again for the first years. And until we go through at least the beginnings of a post-colonial healing process, we're not going to be ready to have a real conversation with Palestinians or embark on like real, meaningful, courageous steps to change the role we play in their story. This question, a lot of the questions that you're asking are very fluid. How would Palestinians feel about living in Israel or living as Israeli citizens? That really, I think, depends on what Israel is in the minds of Palestinians. Just like I think the question for Israelis, how would we feel about absorbing millions of Palestinians into our society? That's a question that really depends on how we experience Palestinians in the story we're living in. Are they those monsters who want to kill us? Are we those monsters who want to destroy them? As long as we are the villain, as long as we are the monster in each other's stories, of course we're not going to be able to live together. But and that's why I think before we really talk about solutions, we really need to focus on changing the roles we play in each other's stories and overcoming the principled ignorance on both sides to understanding the other's narrative, identity, and national story. I think both Israelis and Palestinians have this really frustrating habit of wanting to remain ignorant of the other. Instead of trying to understand the Palestinians from the perspective of Palestinians, we want to superimpose an identity on them. We want to make them the fantasy antagonist in our story, and Palestinians do the exact same thing to us. And meanwhile, we're both fighting our fantasy antagonist and getting nowhere. Even the methods of struggle that we employ in order to achieve our goals don't work. Meaning, just look at Hamas. Hamas fights Israel as if we're the French in Algeria, as if we're this colonial power from Europe. That if you make the price of occupation more expensive than the benefits of exploitation, we'll leave. We'll go back to Europe. That's what they think. And what happens instead is we respond like a native people that experience itself as vulnerable and has superior firepower. That's what we do. And so, if Hamas were to actually try to understand Israel as Israelis understand ourselves, they would probably choose a different method of struggle. They would probably choose a different way to attack us. So, my argument is whether the goal is to make peace, whether the goal is to reconcile, or the goal is to win, both peoples have an interest in trying to actually understand the other, understand their story, understand their pain, understand their fears, and understand their national narrative and how they've been experiencing this conflict for the last century plus.
Thanks, Yehuda. Yeah, so Rami, feel free to respond. If not, I do have a question for you about the current situation and really what's on your mind regarding that.
The current situation now, Gaza in the night, going for nightmares for anyone just listening for a very high level of noises for missiles and rockets, and nobody can see what is going on around him. And if you are lucky, you will just hear the noise of missiles. But if you are not lucky, you will not hear this noise, and you will find, and your relatives, they will find you dead. There is a sentence, a slogan between our group. If you are listening, if you are hearing the voice of the missile, that means that you are alive. If you will die, you will not hear anything. So, just Gaza, all of Gaza Strip under attack. Don't trust in any kind of media, Palestinian or Israeli, talking about safe place in Gaza. No. People now, most of them return back to their homes because once Avichai told them to go to south through their ways, they attacked him. Once he told them to go to the east, everything under attack. And also the media, the Israeli media, speak all the time that the Hamas equipment between the people. And they said that they have bank of all Hamas goals in Gaza. And there is nothing in that bank talking about their coming on Saturday. There is something missing in that equation. Last time before or last day before 7th of Saturday, Gaza skies a lot of drones. So let's think also about some groups here and there need this kind of opportunity to make more renew for their rules or to make more money But as a people, I think now we need to use all of our efforts to stop what is going on in Gaza. It's very hard. People don't find water. People don't find bread. People don't find anything for their kids. We are not talking about missiles here. We're not talking about people support Hamas. No, here we are also, when you are talking about Hamas, you are talking about just 20,000 of people, contain fighters and families and leaders. You are not talking about 2 million people. Also, if you want to talk about Fatah, you are talking about just a few people represent Palestinians. 70% of the Palestinians in Gaza, they are independents, but we don't have independent leaders. We don't have other opportunities to raise our voice. And the Israelis, they don't want to create a third party. All the time there is an Israeli saying that who will come after Hamas? Let's save Hamas. Islamic Jihad, Daesh, there is no Daesh in Gaza. There is no, yani, Hamas will not allow any kind of Islamic group growing up than Hamas. We need a liberal group, make end the division between the Palestinians, because Hamas also, when they started, what happened in Saturday, of course they are looking for Hamas interest. They are not looking for of our nationalism. No, like Egypt, for example. No, Hamas just looking for their goals. So here we are not talking about same story like what happened between Algeria and France. When Algeria fight France, all of the Algerians uniting under Algeria. But no, not all people support Hamas. Not all people support Islamic Jihad. Don't believe Hamas when they started their speech like 1,500 fighters entered the borders. No, and your security not the reality, just 100. And most people who passed near Hamas were civilians. And most of them were killed inside. And they passed the border just to see what it looked like. Hamas, they just want to send messages and use, and all of us knows that Iran and America and Israel playing using some cards in that area. I don't care about all of that politics. I'm care now if there is anyone, Israeli, European, want to know more, want to listen from Gaza, want to just to do something, because of course I met Yehuda in 2017 and I found him, maybe he is against or far away from my ideas, but at least he's caring about both people, not just stand with his people. And I respect that. But I don't understand other persons stand just with these people and he don't care about others. It's not their fault to grow in Gaza. It's not my fault to be here in Cairo. It's not your choice to be in Jerusalem. So at least let's take care about each other. But if you will stand with you and blame me, and I will blame you and stand with myself, so it's an infinity road. Please tell your governments it's not fair to cut water. You are not cutting water of Hamas or of the terrorists. You are cutting water over the babies, over the families. If you want to make a revenge, the leaders of Hamas, they are in Qatar. Cut off the water or just make a call with your friends in Qatar and Turkey, and they can quote all of them like this and give it to you. But you don't want that. You need Hamas all the time, and you need Hezbollah to make some ghosts and speak to the Israeli audience that let's save you from Hamas, Hamas, Hezbollah, Hamas, Hezbollah. What about other people? They are just dead bodies. I have nothing to describe, because of that. I'm talking seriously with you because we are friends, or we have some contacts, or we already spoke about our countries or our people. So I think we are not far away from finding a solution or finding a way. And I'm sure that inside this Zoom meeting, we have a lot of people want to do something. But there is a difference. If you need to listen to your government, Palestinian or Israeli, go out. Leave us alone. If you need to listen to your mind, please come to us and let's take care of all humanity. I'm receiving every moment, not just the news, and waiting. Maybe my family, any friend, just his name in the list. I'm receiving like many things they need. I don't know what to do, but Of course, the first thing we need to make is end this war. And if this war stayed forever or for 1 month, Hamas made the first step, and Hamas need that. And all of us know that in the end of that day, if anyone is still alive, Hamas will start celebrate, and it's a victory. It's the same scenario happened. 1,500 killed in 2009, and it was a victory. Thousands of people killed in 2012 and 14, and it was a victory for Hamas, and certifications for many Israeli soldiers. Now we passed the 3,500. Of course, it's a big victory for Hamas, but it's not something proud for anyone to make any kind of victory over dead bodies. A lot of people know the reality, maybe in my country, and they don't have electricity and internet to speak or to make charge. But Hamas and all of factions and Abu Mazen, they have all kind of live equipments. People have nothing to do. I'm sorry if I was talkative in the end, but we need to find a solution, or find something to end this war. And we can make a public opinion. I think the whole over world want to do something. I don't know how, but it's very good from you, Adar, to speak about that topic on public. We have nothing to hide.
Thank you, Rami. We have a few minutes left. I do want to take some audience questions, so feel free to ask away. Yehuda, there's a question for you. That what if the proposition was reversed, that it would be Palestine from the river to the sea, Jews would be protected, and it would be a soft Arab nation instead of a soft Jewish nation?
Look, first of all, when I think about the future one-state solution, I think that that's a state that would be expressing both Jewish and Palestinian identity in its policies and institutions, its public space. I don't think those two identities are necessarily mutually exclusive. I really, one thing I've discovered, I've been involved in reconciliation work since 2009. And one of the things that I think gives me a lot of hope, it's one of the reasons why we have trouble connecting right now, but I think ultimately it'll be more of a solution to the problem, is that Jews and Palestinians understand national identity in very different ways. I think that, for example, when I hear Palestinians talking about Palestinian identity, for the most part, what I hear that meaning is the indigenous peoples of Palestine throughout time. When Jews talk about our national identity, we're talking about descending from a very specific set of ancestors, and first, a specific set of ancestors buried in Hebron, and then 12 specific tribes, and it's a very primordialist understanding of national identity. And I think that's one of the reasons right now it's so easy for both Jews and Palestinians to deny each other's national identity. You hear a lot of Israelis say there's no such thing as a Palestinian people. There's a lot of Palestinians saying there's a Jewish religion but not a Jewish people, right? But ultimately, I think because our national identities are so different in form, it's possible to have a single state that would really be simultaneously expressing both without those expressions coming into conflict. So that actually makes me hopeful. So I don't think I hope I wasn't heard as like trying to exclusively say this is going to be a state that only has a Jewish identity and not a Palestinian identity. It'll obviously be a state with both. But I think that we have to also acknowledge something very important. Right now, the power dynamics very much favor Israel. And I don't think most Israelis even appreciate what power dynamics mean. I think most Israelis actually experience this as a very horizontal between two national identities. And most Israelis across the political spectrum really believe that if we were to remove control, meaning somehow we gain the upper hand of the conflict and we have control over the Palestinians, to let go, they would just do to us what they did on Simchat Torah. That's what most Israelis are believing, especially right now. that if we took our foot off their necks, they would just massacre us. And and I think it's going to take a lot of courage for Israel to make the first move towards building trust. Because I think because the power dynamics do favor us, we are going to need to be the ones to make the first move towards building trust. And it's not going to be the Israelis who are incorporated into the Palestinian state, the Palestinians who are incorporated into the Israeli state. We can play with names, we can play with flags, not against coming up with new flags, new national anthems, new names, or even using words like Israel and Palestine's autonomous state. I actually prefer that to calling the West Bank Palestine and push down Israel. I'd rather call the whole land one thing. But I think that we do need to acknowledge that Israel does have the power right now. Israel is therefore responsible to make the first moves towards building trust. But realistically speaking, it would be the Palestinians joining Israel and not Israelis joining the Palestinian Authority or Hamas.
So we're about to wrap it up. I'll give you both each a final thought. I do want to respond to something by Miss Adam. Miss Adam, good to see you here. She says, I was so inspired by you, Adar. Now I see it as a fake effort. So I'm not sure if you're saying that, like, you think this channel's a fake effort, and if there's something that's changed in her. Wait, Rami, there's a lot of noise. I'm gonna mute you real quick. Cool. So wait, we keep pressing the button at the same time, and we're unmuting each other. There we go. So Miss Adam, if you think that this channel, you now see it as a fake effort, I'd be interested in having feedback from you as to what you think changed. If this is just a result of you losing hope given the situation, I get you. It's very hard to remain hopeful during these times. But I'll tell you what the purpose of this channel is really more than anything else. When we lose hope and fall into despair, we become radicalized. If we want to see why record numbers of Israelis and Palestinians are supporting horrific actions against each other, are supporting genocide against each other, a lot of this comes from despair. When we don't have hope, we not only become radicalized, but we have no reason to think forward towards a better solution. So we support policies that are seemingly evil, that are harmful to the opposing side. So if this channel does nothing but aid in the de-radicalization of some people, or stops just a few people from becoming radicalized, then we're doing a purpose. Our efforts here are not going to solve the conflict, not on our own. If you want to be an activist and not lose your mind, don't tie your success to the end result. Take it one day at a time. Every person influenced is a win, and that should be what our activism is about. So I by no means think this channel and these conversations are going to solve the conflict. These conversations, without a doubt, are impacting people and allowing people to remain hopeful and stopping people from becoming radicalized. And it takes one to change a few to change many, many to change the world. And all we could really do is our small part, and that's really our intention here. So I hope that lands for you. And again, if you do have feedback, I'm always happy to hear. With that, we're going to give it, Yehuda and Rami, feel free to share a final thought if you can each keep it to 2 minutes. And also let us know where people could get in touch with you. And I'll add that to the description as well so people can reach out.
Rami, you want to go first?
Thank you so much again, Adar, for this opportunity. We need to speak and to let the people and the world knows about Gaza City. Thank you, Yehuda, for coming again. We meet each other, and I think we are working in the same way, at least to find solutions for our people. And I think good that we are still talking under this military situation. And thank you so much for anyone who was interested to come and join. If anyone is come today, of course, he is interested to do something. And again, I'm sharing my efforts with anyone who want to build a generation, understand each other. away from politics, just a human to human. The last thing, and for the infinite times, I will call everyone to do any kind of effort to stop this war. Anyone can do something from his or her place by send a message, by pray, by just say that they are human. They are not Hamas. And thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Always good having you on. And, I'd be happy to do this again sometime. And I hope your family and friends in Gaza remain safe. Yehuda, final thoughts?
Yeah. Well, Rami, first of all, it's always good to see you, and I'm glad you're safe, and I'm glad you're well, and I hope that your family remains safe, all the people in this room. And Adar, I really appreciate you doing this and doing these conversations together. I think it's really important and really part of moving us forward and helping us to advance. And as I said before, one of the big barriers to us being able to move forward is this principled ignorance to each other's stories. And I think your work goes a long way in helping to break down those walls and helping us to really hear each other and understand each other. That's really crucial. So I appreciate the work that you do, and I appreciate you including me in it and allowing me to be part of it. If people are interested in my work, I have a couple regular podcasts. You can find most of the work I do, my writing, my podcasts, whether on politics, whether on the Torah. I have a podcast on the entire book of Bereshit and the entire book of Shemot, in addition to my more political podcast. That can all be found at visionmag.org, Vision Magazine. I'm one of the main educators at Vision Movement, visionmovement.org. It's mostly a Jewish organization that really tries to train young Jews to identify and achieve the next goals of Jewish history. And my reconciliation work is mostly done through Semitic Action, which people can find at semiticaction.org.il. So that's really where people can find me. And me personally, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on what used to be called Twitter, but I don't really engage very much. I'm not good at Twitter or X or whatever it's called, and I'm not sure I want to be based on the kind of toxicity of the culture there. But definitely Facebook or Instagram are good places to find me, contact me. And certainly I encourage everyone to check out Vision Magazine, visionmag.org. People can subscribe to our newsletter and check out our podcasts and content, written content, etc. And once again, thank you so much for including me, Ramy. It's great to see you again. And if any of our viewers have further questions for me, things that I might have said that were misunderstood, or just people that follow up questions, because all these ideas are complicated. Definitely I'm accessible. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll do my best to respond.
Thank you, Yehuda. Such a pleasure having you on, both of you. Really beautiful conversation. And if you could both send me all the links you just mentioned, Yehuda, if you could send them over, and Ramy, send me how people could reach out to you. It will be in the description of this video shortly. And for those tuning in, thank you as always. We will be back on sometime in the next few days with just more updates, more conversations, more efforts of reconciliation. Thank you all. Sending love.